What? Bro, what are you talking about, man? Bro, I'm out, man. That nigga's tripping.
Hello guys, what's going on? We are back here on the DST show. We're going to be going over sports news. Of course, if you haven't heard over the New York media, there's been a rapid amount of trades with the Detroit Pistons after what seemingly was a positive draft for the Detroit Pistons over acquiring Kemba Walker in a future later pick so we can get a different player. The Knicks did something. The Knicks have traded away Nerlens Noel, Alec Burke, Detroit's own 2023 second round pick, and the 2024 second round pick from Miami, and $6 million in cash to resourcefully try to press for cap space so they can acquire Jalen Brunson, starting point guard for the Dallas Mavericks. Even though he had an impressive postseason showing, it was only that. And they're trying to pay him over, I don't know, 4 years for $140 million. Now, last time we saw an overpayment like this in the Eastern Conference, it was Al Horford's ridiculous, 4 years, $130 million that he acquired over to the Sixers. To not even abide to that contract in the second half of the season when the Sixers were struggling, they traded him back over to Boston for average production. You don't pay a supermax for an average role contributor. And Bronson, he did an exceptional job in the series he had against Utah and some games he had against the Warriors. And I was expecting more of contractual obligations to keep him for an extra 2 to 3 seasons on the Mavs for at least $70 million, $60 million for a guy that showed out and actually was there for the team. Now at Knicks, you take it like there's nobody else there's no other guards in the Western Conference that you could try to get for that $100 million. Don't you forget Donovan Mitchell doesn't even want to deal with what's going over with Rudy Gobert and the constant postseason success. Oh, and we take it like Bradley Beal doesn't have a team option to go as an unrestricted free agent over the free agency market. We're needing major contributing pieces to try to put back the Knicks into a playoff contender as we were 2 seasons ago. And yet you're trying to put it on average production. He's averaging at least 13 points a game. At the least. Or at least 16. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to call Jalen Brunson ass. The Dallas Mavericks highly improved their standing with being on the 4th best in the Western Conference, upsetting the 1st seed Phoenix Suns, and decimating the Utah Jazz. That is nothing to take lightly. And Jalen Brunson was a major contributor in that part of the season. He's not even that old. But if we're looking effectively, his 3-pointer is 37% from the field. And you'll get average efficiency when it comes to him moving out of the paint. And he only averages around 16 points per game. That's massively overpaying what's already under what you have for Bobby Portis' contract. Around the 2019 off season, and what you did over for Julius Randle around his off season at the same time. But one splitted after, you let Bobby Portis walk over to to Milwaukee and he won a title. We're still sticking over with fucking Julius Randle's average contract. Even though the guy has offensive and defensive liabilities into his game. And Derrick Rose's injuries. And still trying to actually convert our youth. I even think that we're even going to sign Ricky Rubio. Just average-looking veteran, average-looking veteran talent that will barely affect our depth. I'm expecting goddamn Otto Porter Jr. from the Warriors to sign. Maybe Andre Drummond in a terrible deal. Not Kevin Knox, but probably Avery Bradley. TJ Warren will probably overpay for him. And this is just expected coming over to the offseason. We're only a few nights away before, around the middle of July, we're pretty much like jam-packed with a lot of NBA news to, cover the rest of the summer out. But Jesus, this is just so dumb. This is just borderline desperation to try to sacrifice a future for an average player that's only been averaging double digits in his fourth season in the NBA, out of averaging around like 13 points and being borderline nameless. For the first 3 years of his NBA career. That's not a good sign. At least Julius Randle had a bit of upside, even though he finessed the shit out of going into an All-Star game. And then putting over to the playoffs, where he was like averaging around like 12 points. And even if he did over when we had to come back to the playoffs, he was like chucking around 3-pointers. Couldn't control the ball well, even though we forced him as our primordial ball handler. It just doesn't play like a forward. Now, that can improve over the next season. But Jalen Brunson is a really gutsy move. Kemba Walker's already gone. We already lost our journeyman big out of Nerlens Noel, or like our C-list guard out of Alec Burke. If we lose Cam Reddish, I would give up. Or we lose Robinson, Fournier. DeJounte Murray could be a major steal, and I thought that was going to happen around the draft, seeing how the Spurs are in this rebuilding notion. Alfred Simons as well, but I bet he's going to be signed to an overpaid deal. Or we can try to push over for Damian Lillard. We are not progressing to sign, major superstars, except guys that put up an average showing in postseason. That's weird. That's a weird mentality to go with. This is why I don't think a lot of players go around this. And I lived around the time when we thought there was a high chance, when LeBron was a free agent around 2010, that he was going to sign over with the Knicks or Nets. But he signed with Miami. And guess where that got him? More championships, still more than the Knicks. That's not a good sign. That's just conflicting. And this is coming after Kyrie, I guess, possibly dodged a bullet. Saving over his bread and opting in with the Nets, so he doesn't become $30 million broke, or less richer in that case, because it's still a lot of money. But besides that, this is just completely risky. What if he underperforms and doesn't gel over to the rotation? It'd be the same way when we made those major signings for Kemba Walker and Evan Fournier around the last season. Average B-list talent that finds barely any way to gel with the team when they're the primordial ball handler. And last time I checked, Kemba Walker barely even played that much into the Knicks season, sitting out for majority of the season. Fournier was pushed over more in the rotation than Kemba Walker. That's embarrassing. But I have big hopes for Emmanuel Quickley, RJ Barrett, Mitchell Robinson. Hopefully, whatever Jalen Brunson chooses, it's not the Knicks, so we don't sacrifice our money. It's like that Le'Veon Bell deal all over again. When the Jets overpaid for that running back that actually put up good production for years with the Steelers until he became a head case and just completely walked out over most of the season so he doesn't risk injury, and so we can push out a bullshit mixtape that nobody listened to, and then you haven't heard from him ever since. To bring you up how dated this is, I graduated around 2018. So that tells you how much Le'Veon Bell just scrapped himself out of being a top 10 running back in the NFL now. But besides the point, I disagree with this notion, and a majority of the media, if the Knicks even fathom of trying to sacrifice their cap so they can push over for an above average point when we already have a struggle as it is, finding an identity as a team, or even putting up equivalent of good points. Sacrificing that amount of depth for one free agent signing is not a good sign. It's not smartfully thinking of how you want to push over this team or how Jalen Brunson is really going to impact with players that we're probably not going to see over the offseason. Or if Randall is even going to produce the same way he did 2 seasons prior. And sure, I know Randall can push over the points, but he's obviously not the number one option. And most of Jalen Brunson's upside of how we even push over with 40 points into the game is because of Tim Hardaway Jr. Impactful bigs on the team. And, Jason Kidd's not that bad of a coach. So you would say over the system he played, not because he was the prime player, or else Luka Doncic wouldn't have, averaged more points than him when he came back from injury. This is our lives, man. This is how it is whenever I have to talk about the Knicks. It's never a positive, but it's always a negative. Tell me how you feel about Jalen Brunson heading over to the Knicks if possible. I understand that we don't know yet. Possibly a different option over the front office. This is only rumors, but this is, big over to the standpoint of trying to sacrifice so many pieces for one player that, it's not really gonna put us into a positive light. And, we still have D Rose's ankles on the team, so I wonder what's gonna happen then. Other than that, that's it from the Necronomicon and the DST show. Thanks for watching. That's it for me.